Yes.
Okay. First, let me share my screen. Let me know if you all can see my screen.
Yes, we are able to see your screen.
Yes.
Yeah. Just a second. So let me start first with Java, and yeah, this session is kind of just demoing the basics of Java and Selenium, and yeah, so let me start with Java. So what I have done is uh, I have just created a normal Java project over here, saying okay, all this installation part, like downloading this Eclipse and Java, installing those things and taking the plugins. So we can discuss this furthermore later in our classes. But for now, let's say we have all those things in our system, and then what we do is generally like here I have just created a normal Java project with this, and then given some name over here. So some Java demo. What is this? 23rd. So some name of the project, and then just say finish. Once I click on it, so what Java would do is it creates a kind of source folder and then gives us the Java related library would be already imported in this. And inside a source folder, again, we would create a package. So now when we create a package, what we have to do is just right click on your source folder and then say package and then package name. Now package name here, what we have to do is basically we can give any name, but the best practice what people would recommend is having the package name starting with a small case. So let's say today is what 23rd September, right? So I'll say just September 23rd demo is my package name, just a package name, and then just say finish. So here is what we get when we create a package. So basically in a Java project, we would have classes. First of all, we had packages, right? So there's no limitations on how many packages we can create and how many classes we can create. So it's kind of n number of packages you can create in your source folder. And it's also like you can create n number of source folders in your project. So no limitations on creation of source folders or packages or the classes. So to create a class, what we have to do is just right click on your package and then say class. Class, you can say give some name, and again the naming convention. Class should be starting with first capital letters and followed by a next camel case thing. So first Java is my class name. And then here itself we can import main method. Let's say finish. So here what we have done is we have just created a normal Java class initially, and we have got some basic snippet of what this Eclipse would give us. So here now what we have here is the main method. So now main method, what's the use of main method, and what if a main method is not present in our class? What happens to this particular Java class? So what generally we do is in class, we can create variables and methods, but then whatever methods, variables we create in our particular class, it's like until Java finds a point of entry, it's kind of whatever code you write is kind of useless, or it's not being used, I would say, in the code. So for a Java to execute a particular class or execute some lines of code, it first needs to have a main class. So that's a main method. So that's the purpose of main method. So main method is nothing but the entry point of your Java. So inside this main method, whatever you would write would be executed based on the syntax that we have used and based on what you want to do. So here we need to mention. So for example, let's say I just want to print something on my console. So here you see a console, right? So on the output side, we just want to print something. Let's say, for example, we want to print uh, welcome to demo class. So for that, what we have to do is we just have to type. So to print something on the console, we use system.out.println is a syntax for that, and then in double quotes. So actually this uh, print method would take a number of parameters. For now, here we have string, let's say. So string we need to pass here. So as I said, we would pass a string as welcome to today's demo. So here, once I save it, what we can do is to execute this particular class. What we have to do is just right click on it, and then we would find some menu options. Right here, you would have run through Java application, since we are executing through Java. So just right click on that, and then in the console, you would find whatever we have printed here. So same way, we can run this particular classes in different ways. Again, here there's a menu item. From here as well, you can click which particular class you want to run, and then just click on this run button. And there are different methods, again, on command, through command prompt as well, we can execute, and there are Jenkins, and also that's a quite different topic. Let's say for now, we'll just stick to this thing. So now here we know how to execute our Java class. So like say we also want to write some basic programs, say like kind of addition, subtraction, multiplication, any kind of those things, right? So for that, what we'll do here is we can create a variable here. So to create a variable, first we need to give a variable name. Let's say I need to give two variables, and the outcome should be addition of those two numbers. So for that, what we'll do is I have the variable called number1, and number1 I want to give, let's say 10. So before this, I'll tell you. So our requirement is we just have first number, num1 is what, some value 10 plus 20, and the result should be 30 is what our requirement is, or what we are doing. So this is what we have to do: 10 plus 2, 10 plus 20, and the result should be 30. So we have to, let's say, code this thing. So what we'll do is we'll create variables for that first. So number1, let's say 10, and then number2 is what, 20. Now when you create a variable in Java, what directly, if you just give the variable name and then assign a value to it, Java doesn't understand this until you need to specify what type of this variable is. For example, since we are storing a number, integer, so for that, what we have to do is we need to specify the type of this variable, so which is int. So let's say here, if we are giving some decimal values, some float values, then in that case, what we have to do is we have to write that float, decimal, all those things. So for now, I'm just giving the integers, let's say. Same way here, number2. And for example, let's say if you don't know what type of what type we need to give for this particular variable, so what Eclipse would do is it kind of gives us suggestions, saying when you just mouse over on this particular thing, it says us give some suggestions. So based on that, you can select. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, create local variable of number2. When we click on this particular thing, it kind of detects what type of value we have already given, and based on that, it creates the variable type here. So here we have got number1, number2, and then what's next? So we just want to store this in some variable, or let's say I just want to print on the output console. So I can say here number1 plus number2 directly in the system out.println. So what it does is initially it comes to the, when I execute this particular class, it comes to your main method. Again, from main method, it goes to your first line of code. What it try, where it goes to the 7th line. It's nothing. 8th line, nothing. 9th line, yeah. It says, okay, we need to print something. So it just prints this. After 9, then it goes to 10th, 11th, empty, comment 12, nothing. Then on the 13th line, it just assigns this value to a variable, and internally it just keeps these things here. So number 1, number 2, and then it goes to the your 16th line, which is this thing. Now, when you execute, our expected thing should be, it should first print this and then the addition of this. So you see here, 20 plus 10 plus 20 is 30. Now, 30 itself, like when you see, you won't be able to understand what this 30 is just seeing the output. So for a proper, better user experience, for a clear understanding, what we can do is we can say on the output thing, addition of those numbers or addition of two numbers is 30, or addition of number 1 and number 2 is so and so. So for that, what we have to do is we just have to concatenate these strings. So how we do that? So just say double quotes, and then these things we. So here what I'll do is, in double quotes, whatever we give, exactly that thing would be printed in the console. So here what I want is the sum of two numbers is sum of number 1 and number 2 is equals to this thing, let's say. So what it does is, before this 30 it prints, it would just print exactly the same thing whatever you have mentioned in your double quotes. So sum of number 1 and number 2 is output. But again, when you have this thing, what if here we are unable to understand what number 1 is and what number 2 is? For that as well, we can just parameterize it. So what we have to do is, instead of this hard coded or static values, again we can just call our variable which we have created. So this number 1, and just say plus, give the variable name, and then plus. So here what we are doing is just concatenating this with our string. Concatenating in the sense we are just trying to add in a particular string. So once we save this thing, and now when you execute, here you would have clear understanding of, okay, sum of what this 30 is, it's nothing but the sum of 10 and 20. So similar way, if you give, let's say some other number 50 and 20, so same thing would be printed on your console. Then sum of 50 and 20 is 70. So this is your basic addition, right? Now here, what we have done, I've just created everything in just one class. So there are different ways with which we can again refactor our code. So basically, we can't reuse this code, whatever we have done, in some other places wherever it is required. So for that, what we generally do is we create methods. So method is kind of whenever we see, okay, some part of the code is repeated, kind of would be duplicated if ever we required. So those things, what we can do is we can create a method for that. So for this method, let's say we need to name a method. So how to declare a method? First, we need to give the method name. So method name here, I would say as addition. So when we say method name addition, so what it does is addition, and then we need to give this function braces and start of this method to close. Then just the method name won't be enough. Again, just like variable, when we declare, it needs some other things, right? So the other things would be, what are the other things? Here we need what access modifier this particular method is. Access modifier in the sense, what security level do you want to give to your particular method? So we have what options? Let's say want to make this particular method as public, so we need to write public, or private, protected. Those are the access modifiers. Again, then next comes static. Static is what there are two things here. One is static and one is non-static. So when you mention static, which means that particular item, be it a variable or the method, is static. If you not mention it, it's non-static. So static is nothing but this particular thing would be associated with the class. Associated is just say attached to your class, we can say. So whenever we required this particular thing to call, what we can do is we can address this particular thing with the help of your class name. Just say class name dot whatever you want. Those static elements would be accessed. So here we have given static, and then next comes the return type of your method. So what are the return type methods? It would be void. Void in the sense you want to execute whatever method is there, but you don't want to return anything. So in that case, we would write void. But let's say after execution, at the end, you want to return something in your what I would say through after your code. So like integer or string, then what we have to do is just say return, and whatever string, if you want to return, just say string or number, whatever it is. So for this particular thing, what you have to do is you just have to mention the return type. So return type for a number would be again integer, int. So likewise, we need to do it. For now, I'll just say void. I don't want to return anything. And the same thing, what we can do is again other thing. We also can create parameterized variables. Again, what parameterized variable is, or would it be too much? So I guess let's stop this Java thing here itself. So what I've done is I've just called this particular method here, and then let's say now when we execute this thing, what it does, we know it comes to your main method, and then whatever is written in your main method, it prints that. And after that, it goes to your end of that particular main method, and it says there's nothing else. So even after main method, you have written some method, doesn't mean that Java should execute that. So it would execute only when you have written something in your main method. So which means for a method to execute, we just need to call that particular method. So how to call that method? Just call with the method name. And now after printing of this thing, it would call addition, and in addition, whatever you have mentioned, it would do this. So yeah, I guess this is enough for Java. And yeah, if there's anyone who has doubt, they want to ask anything in this Java, please let me know. Is everything clear for whatever I've explained till now? Yeah. Okay, then I'll just jump on to the Selenium part. Now, what Selenium is? Selenium is nothing but uh, again, just like Java, we have a library. So Selenium is also having a kind of library, we say, predefined code or something. So with which, using this Selenium, we can automate a web-based applications. So for example, let's say we have a requirement wherein we just want to automate a website called demo web shop. Let's say I'll take this particular example. So what we have to do is just open this particular URL, and then click on this login button, and then enter some username, password, and just click on login method. Or let's give some valid data and password, and then click on login button. So these are the methods, steps that we want to perform. So how to automate basically this thing through Selenium is, so we'll have that libraries first of all in our classes, and then so I will create a class again. So this demo web shop which we are automating. So I'll give a name called demo web shop. I'll use this main method here, and then in our main method. So what's the first step? So manually what we have done, we just opened a browser. So same way in Selenium, what if you just want to open a browser? What's the code? What's the syntax for that? So syntax for that is, it's WebDriver. WebDriver is nothing but an interface here, WebDriver, and then we kind of have to create an object for the Chrome driver, our the browser. So for that, what we have to do is WebDriver, then variable name. So we'll say just driver. We can give anything. I'm just giving driver, and new is a keyword, and then Chrome driver. So this is what I have written. So WebDriver driver equals to new Chrome driver, which means I am just trying to open the Chrome driver. And again, for Selenium to open the Chrome driver, first of all, we have some prerequisites, basic requirements, a kind of where the Selenium related library is. We need to install, download, and store that in our Java project. Same way, the Chrome browser. So for Chrome, we have Chrome driver, and those things we can just download it from here. So basically, I don't want to show that, but it's going to take time. So, but for clear understanding, let's say Chrome driver related, if you just want to install, So we just have to come here and then take Chrome driver. So we would find different versions here. So what version which we have to download is, we need to check our what local browser version you have. So based on that particular thing, we need to match the same Chrome version. So when you see here, my Chrome version is 105, which means I just have to download 105 related Chrome browser version, and you would find different Windows, Mac, Linux system related. So whatever system we are using, based on that, we can just download it. Once we download, install, we unzip that file. So we get this particular exe file in our system. So I've downloaded these things here for the reference. Now, again, so since we have written this code, again, it gives us some error, kind of ask us to import some of the packages. So basic packages, it would be coming from or talk. So nothing but people have written some things, some code related to open the browser and do that stuff in this particular package. So if you see this package, you would find it here in the reference libraries. I'm not going that too deep for now. And then import these things. And once we import, if we just directly run, again, we would get some error. So let me run this and then we'll tell you what error it is. So here it says the path driver executable must be set. So which means the Eclipse here is giving us an error saying, okay, we need to set some path. So for that, what we have to do is just copy this thing. Here, what we have to do is system dot set property. Since we have to set the property, so we would use this particular method, and then key and value we need to mention. So key would be whatever key we are using over here, and then the value would be what our Chrome driver exe, wherever we have stored that particular path, we need to mention. So I'll use for now this particular path, apply and close. So yeah, with this, let's say just want to execute. So what we have done is we have set the property for the Chrome browser, wherever that exe file is, and then we are initializing, opening the Chrome driver. Once you execute that, see, a new instance of a Chrome driver has been opened with nothing inside this, because we have done nothing basically. So let's say, as I said, we want to navigate to this particular URL, right? So I'll just copy this thing, and then, so how to open a URL here? So we would use driver.get is another method with which you can open any URL through this Selenium. So once we hit this, what it does is it opens this thing, and then inside this, it just enters this value. After that, what's our next step? Let's say we want to maximize our browser because it's in minimize, right? So if, let's say, if you want to maximize, what we can do is we use driver.manage manage.window.maximize. So with this particular statement, what it does is it maximizes this thing. After that, we need to click on login. So how to click on login? So we'll first inspect that particular element. So there are ways with which we can identify a particular element in through Selenium. So what we have to do is, so in browser itself, you just inspect that particular element with which you want to perform some action. So once we inspect, so you would have some DOM opened, and then some properties the developer would be written to design or code this particular thing here. So like he has given an anchor tag with h reference as login, and the text as login. So you can take any of those properties. Like how to identify elements in Selenium, there are ways like ID. If there's some ID of the element, we can use ID, name, the other attribute, which is the class, or if, let's say, if we don't have any of those, we can use the text itself, or if not text, then we can use XPaths. So there are different ways. For now, I'll just use, let's say, the link text I would use, since it's a link how to identify based on this anchor tag. So what's the code for that would be, I would say driver dot, what we are doing is we are just finding an element on the page. So we have a method called find element, and then by what property? By dot, I want to find this thing, as I said, by the link text. So I would use link text as the method name. And then the text value that we just have to mention it here. And I would say dot. So for this particular element, Selenium has identified. Then when we say dot, what you want to do with this particular element, you just want to click it. So you would use click. End the statement with semicolon. So what it does is, after opening, you just click on this particular login. And then, as I said, we just have to enter some text in the email field. So here, when you see, you would have some properties, class as email, ID as email, name. So as I said, we can identify an element based on ID or name or different things, right? So for this, let's say after the page is opened, I want to identify the next element based on ID. So I say driver.find element by dot ID is the method which we can use. And then to this email dot, when you say what you want to do, you would pass some text, right? So you would send some keys. So we can use this method, send keys. And then what keys? I would say abc@gmail.com, some email ID that I want to pass for now. So same way for password field, how to identify this password. You can use again ID or name. Let's say I want to use name here, and name is again password. So next statement would be driver.find element by dot. Next property is I want to use name. Name is what? Password over there. And then I want to pass some send keys to that particular field. This is my password, something or the other, I would say. After entering these two fields, we'll just click on a login button. So again, identify this particular button. I would identify based on XPath for here, I would say. So how to write an XPath? We'll say here // what the tag is, tag of the element. We know it is input, and then attribute and the value. So attribute is what? Attribute name is value equal to, in single quotes, value of that value. Value of that value is login here. So this is our XPath. So come here, we'll just say driver.find element by dot. Through XPath we have found. So we write this method and then pass this value dot. We are clicking. So we use this click element. So let's say we execute this, and yeah, there would be one error which I'm expecting here, because this actions would be performed very quickly, fast through your Selenium. See, I've executed, I'm not doing anything. It has a maximize, clicked on login, email, password, and then clicked on login. So we have got this particular measure. So same thing, whatever we thought of doing manually, whatever we done, same thing we have achieved through automation with this particular kind of code. So yeah, that's it from my side. So any questions, any doubts, please feel free to ask. Anyone can unmute themselves and want to ask any questions. So I guess everything is clear and there are no questions. Yeah, then yeah, I'm good then. Sudhakar, you can take over.
Yeah, Pradeep. Thank you. Thanks for your time, and I'll get back to your, the further procedures.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.